Thank you, Laurent. So we are reaching the hot and trendy topic of this conference. We will be talking about what's our industry doing with artificial intelligence. And so for this topic, initially we invited a known person, which is Adam Hyde from the Collective Knowledge Foundation. We wanted him with us to speak with us because the point is that Coko Foundation is producing open source tools, and they included part of artificial intelligence into their tools. So we wanted to have this point of view and to provide you the opportunity to see those tools, but it was not possible. So we hope that next year it will happen. Yet we have with us, we wanted a view from a publisher, a view from an accessibility expert, and a view from a tool provider. And because it's a hot topic, we asked Virginie, our president, to moderate this roundtable. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm very pleased to welcome Gregorio Pellegrino, a lot of you know very much, from Fondazione LIA. Samuel Petit from Comix AI, Groupe De Marque, and Vincent Gros from Hachette. And I also introduce myself. I'm Virginie Clayssen, and working at EDTs and currently president of EDRLab. Recent developments in AI field, such as LLMs and generative AI, have pushed AI into the hype, especially after the release of ChatGPT in late 2022. We've all heard about the real threats that these AI developments pose to the book industry, and everyone involved in the cultural industries has rallied for AI systems to be regulated to protect citizens and creators. But we also know that while it's essential to defend ourselves, it's just as important to mobilize to be the actors of our own future. And that the only way to do this is to develop our own uses, ensuring that they are at the service of creation. But Gregorio, it seems that at Fondazione LIA you were using AI long before 22. And what have AI and LLMs changed for you?
Sure. So some of you may remember 5 years ago, here at the Digital Publishing Summit in Paris, we presented an experiment on using machine learning services for describing images. They were the early days of AI applied to digital publishing, and the accuracy was quite low. About 50% of the descriptions were fine and 50% were not good. So we are investing, and we have invested a lot on AI for accessibility. We have now a PhD, industrial PhD, who is working within our foundation for developing AI for accessible digital publishing. So my point of view on this use of AI, I think there is a big hype on the generative AI. We have seen OpenAI, Claude, Llama, and all that tools that are Mistral, sorry, sure, that are great tools, and they can do super things that we were not able before. At the same time, creating these fundamental models, which are the base of these tools, is really, really expensive. So it's not feasible that every organization can develop or implement their own large language model, which is the category of these tools. We think also that there is still machine learning. Machine learning is the class of technologies that emulates how humans learn from the environment and try to teach computers to learn as humans. And managing these machine learning algorithms is cheaper than managing LLMs. And a lot of things in the accessibility can be done with just machine learning instead of using the generative AI. For example, we already have in our tools different pieces of machine learning that helps us in checking if the language tagging is correct, that can do OCR for extracting text from images, that can enhance metadata for digital publication, then can check semantics. And all these are quite cheap to develop and fix, cheaper than LMs. So I think that this hype on generative AI is a little bit misleading us from what is really achievable for small organizations. Even big publishers are small organizations compared to the big companies that are developing that tools. At the end, I think that we cannot reach 100% of automation in checking accessibility using artificial intelligence. Right now, we measure that 32% of accessibility checks can be run automatically. We think that with a little bit of AI, we can reach maybe 50% of tests, maybe 60% of tests, but for the last mile, for the 40% remaining, humans in the loop are still needed. As I mentioned, we already have these tools available in-house, and we are thinking how to give the possibility also to externals to use the tools that we developed.
Okay, I'm interested to hear you, Samuel, on the same question of the use Comix AI has made of AI. If my memory serves me right, you worked first in the field of automated comics translation, and then you went to researches on accessibility. Is that right?
Yes, perfectly. Thank you very much. So we too have begun to develop artificial intelligence since before it buzzed everywhere on the internet, because we start in 2010. And in fact, mainly what we are doing is something quite difficult, because in the comics, in the manga, webtoon, visual narrative content, you have a huge artistical diversity. And for the algorithm to understand where is the bubble, what is the shape of the bubble, the text inside the drawings, the handwritten text, the onomatopoeia, the sound effect, the deformed text, where are the people, when the style of the drawing is different, black and white, colorful painting, everything is difficult. So to build strong algorithms that will extract the geometry and the textual content from comics, it took us 10 years. That's the introduction. We use that AI to develop, indeed, Comix Suite, which is a software that today is focused only on comics localization. So basically, it will extract the text, the translator will have the transcription. He can use or not machine translation, I insist, or not. Then you have proofreading feature, and you have some magical stuff for the letterer, because he can import, for instance, in 1 second, 2,000 bubble in the comics to work and finish his work. The goal is to focus the human on their additional value and not to replace them. I have competitors in Asia that try to switch completely to kill the human in the loop, but this is not what we are doing. And to finish finish my speech, indeed, we begin to switch to accessibility subject for some times. I will say that accessibility of comics is complex. There is something that we will have to understand. It will be step by step. You will not have bande dessinée, mangas that will come from zero accessibility to full accessibility, we will solve use case by use case. There is some things where we are quite ready, but we have not put any product on the market today. But this is no more research. And some of the hard subjects are still research. And you know, we are in the framework of a common laboratory with La Rochelle University. This is a little special. So we play the scientific game. So we publish. So if you are attentive, you will see in the coming weeks, months, a new publication about making accessible comics accessible, where we mix some new technology with the technology I just described. So we mixed LLM and what we have developed those 10 years, and we begin to have some impressive results. So I'm excited to share that soon to the publishing industry. Thank you.
Thank you, Samuel. Vincent, how is a major publishing group like Hachette Livre approaching AI?
Yes, so as at Hachette Livre, we'll share the same progression than Fondazione LIA, at least for accessibility. I finished my PhD 8 years ago, and we started to some data-driven projects, especially on machine learning at that time. After that, computer vision, AI in general, and now generative AI since the new ChatGPT, OpenAI, and the new move on Gen AI. So we try to follow all these innovation waves we can see. 15 years ago, it was for anti-piracy, for example. We have a lot of workflows that use AI, not only for accessibility. Of course, we have tools that work on accessibility metadata, on EPUBs as well. And now we try to find what kind of future we can develop using LLM. Not only LLM, I agree with Gregorio on that point, but it's one of the tools we can use for the future.
At the latest edition of the AI Tuesdays webinar that SNE organizes, Storytel's Constance Parpoil explained that until now, during the first step of experiments, using generated voice to perform audiobooks narration remained an expense and didn't save the company any money. It's at this step of the work. Have you today a more precise knowledge about the costs associated with the use of AI? Are you still saving costs thanks to AI?
Yes, we have to, of course, because if we want to launch a project, we have to know the numbers behind that. It depends on how you implement AI. If we talk about Gen AI, how you use AI, if it's proprietary, open source, if you use API, or if you would like to deploy the model on your server, how technical it is to maintain the project. So maybe you need one member, a data scientist, a data analyst. It depends on the project. So it can cost a lot. If you use API by usage, for example, if you have a lot of users, it costs a lot. If you would like a big LLM, it costs a lot than small, a lot larger than small LLMs. So really it depends, but we know that we can build POC, proof of concept, that's for sure. To deploy a project, you need to understand your use cases, the cost by usage, or to use a specific model. And after that, evaluate between a manual process or classic technical process and using AI, what is the benefit of that?
Speaking of description of images, what are the things that AI is doing not so good in AI description?
Well, so since we are running a new research project on automatically describing images using AI, there are different tools available that can do that. We have seen that for this tool, it's not really understandable what an alternative description is. There is not that meaning into the tools, so we have to tell them what is an alternative description and then ask them to produce one. And the other thing is that they are normally a lot verbose. So the descriptions are quite long, while normally for alternative description, for most of images, a short description is fine. Then one limit that we see, but maybe the other can say something about that, is that the most common languages are quite well supported by these systems, while we see that for small countries with not a lot of inhabitants, using a specific language, these systems are not there. We are lucky because we are all from, Italian is well supported and French it is as well, but in the room there are other people from small countries.
One way, Vincent, to avoid exposing our data to the big AI players is to use open LLMs and adapt them to our big players have also some open LLMs or partly open LLMs. And adapt them to our needs. In concrete terms, what does this mean for a publisher? Is it really within the reach of a large group? Do you use such
yes.
or train your own instance of an LLM at home?
Maybe I won't answer that.
I want to know.
So to answer the question, I think the best is to start by open source LLM, not ChatGPT, not proprietary LLM, because you can do a lot with open source model on your computer, on your laptop as a start, and there's no security issues, there's no personal data and all these questions behind that. So you can start just the first prompt, discover how LLM can react on your different use cases. And on a larger perspective, open source is really great. You have a platform called Hugging Face. It's like a GitHub, but for open source LLM. And there is a lot of different models you can use on that platform. Mistral, of course, Llama 2 and Llama 3, but small models maybe you don't know about that are really great for specific use cases. So you can start to create an account on Hugging Face, and you can test the different models on the platform and see what you can do with that. And as a big publisher, open source LLM is really great for the different use cases we can have, and we can specify them for our own needs. So maybe I can talk about RAG and fine-tuning.
Yes, it was my next question.
Okay.
Feel free to develop now.
Okay, so if you would like to specify a model for your own needs, you have two main methods to do that. The first is fine-tuning, and the second one is RAG, which stands for Retrieval Augmented Generation. So if I try to vulgarize the different approach, fine-tuning, you have to modify the model with your own data. So you have to be sure your data is okay, how you can develop the different data, different formats you need for the fine tuning. You need the hardware, and it costs a lot to have that kind of hardware. Maybe as a publisher we can't do that. We need the GAFA for doing that kind of stuff, or specific startups to do that. It takes a long time to perform, and you have to loop anytime you have new data, for example, for educational purposes. Every year you have to fine-tuning once again the model to be sure you can have the model you want to develop. So it's really hard to fine-tune as a publisher, as a maybe non so technical company. One thing we can do is RAG. RAG is the model plus your data in real time, if I can vulgarize this way. For example, you can go on the Edge browser, you open a PDF on the browser, and you have a button at the top right of the browser, which is Copilot. You click on it, you have a Copilot that can talk about the PDF you have in the browser. That's RAG. That's how RAG works. You can do that on PDF, on JSON files, on SQL database. That's the benefit of using RAG. So you can have your own data, the structure you have now, and an LLM model to interact with the different information you can have in your database on your documents. So RAG is one way, is considered as the future of LLM, of the usage of LLM, is one way to deploy a specific model for specific use cases, especially in the publishing industry.
I see you're approving, Samuel. Are you using also open source LLMs for your tasks?
Yes, I think Vincent explained nearly everything, so I will just even not add, but just precise one thing. Open source LLM is key. Everything Vincent explained is perfectly right. And for us, as a provider of publisher, we have two ways to fine-tune. Is to feed with content without copyright, that is free because they are too old or that kind of stuff, or authorized content by the publisher. And in that case, we have to build muraille de Chine, a chain wall, because of course, if they authorize us to train on their content, they don't want that content they give to us feeds OpenAI, ChatGPT, and that. And I think that's the only things I want to precise, because everything was perfectly explained before.
Okay. Maybe you have some question?
I'd like to ask you, relying on open source LLMs instead of industrial LLMs, maybe it's more about ethics rather than technology or strategy. I mean, just to take power from the big companies behind those models.
For me, one more time, I say that you have explained perfectly. I insist one more time on one thing you have said. The ChatGPT and Claude are so spectacular that we think they are doing everything. And Vincent explained perfectly that there is some LLMs that are specialized. Yes. And believe me, specialized LLM is sometimes by far more useful than general LLM when you want to achieve something. So no, it's not only about ethics, it's also about pure pragmatic when you want to have a result. And when you don't want pollution and hallucination and that kind of stuff, you need to frame a little what you want. Sometimes you need less capacity to have a better result when you want to target something precisely.
Yes, just to mention that I'm a technical guy, so all the arguments I have is on a technical perspective, and open source are really great. You can compare ChatGPT or GPT, even GPT-4o, the last one, to open source LLM for a specific use case. you have great results on using an open source model.
Hello. Speaking about image descriptions, Gregorio, you were mentioning some tools and a project you're working on. Will you share that with us at some point later? Will it be public or?
Sure. We presented it at the Bologna Children Book Fair, and we are planning to release them publicly. Yes, sure. And yes, so I mean, one interesting thing I think of what we are working on, just to add something, is not only about describing images, but is describing images within the context where they are and for the audience of a specific book. So it's not a general description. And this is, I think, something that with the new generative AI tools can be achieved that was not possible before.
Yeah, just to indicate that on Hugging Face there is multimodal models you can try it on if you would like to do it by yourself.
Samuel, I was really interested because I had a small research project for myself to make a talking comic book, and it was very, very interesting turning a comic book page into basically part of a novel, an audio book. Have you tried to get a more descriptive, maybe even like with a subjective voice, even to describe what's happening on a comic book page? Both on a holistic level and on a panel by panel level.
One more time, comics images are very complex. So, in fact, we are not really on the step to vocalize anything today. We are first on the first steps that were one of the difficulties. When in the last Assise du Livre Numérique, I make a small presentation where I show one of the big problematics that when you have a sequence of image, for instance, if we want to make an audio description for blind, the difficulty is you have to succeed to not add useless information. I mean, if, for instance, you have 2 characters in the same room on each 9 panel in the page, if the description is always the 2 characters in the yellow room in blah, blah, it's useless. So there is so in fact, we have something to solve before, is in the same time to understand completely the context, to understand the sequence, which we are quite successful in that, and we need to succeed to understand the character, the personage, and the model must understand when there is something new that is interesting for the people and when this is useless. And the frontier between what is useless, what is useful for someone who has disabilities like blind people is extremely hard to do, but
yeah.
But
and that's the subjective part I meant, that it's and the holistic versus the segmented.
Yes,
view. And it's super hard, right? So.
Yes, and in fact, it's connected to another subject we have not developed. We were thinking about speak about. Okay, so in very quick today there is some fantasy about auto translating comics which is not working, and I think that one of the key is in fact contextual understanding to pilot the machine translation, and I have finished.
So it's not magic, and we are out of time.
Exactly.
IA is not magic.
Yeah, it's not magic.
Thank you very much.
Can we make magic happen?
Yes, I hope.
Take your word. Sure. Magic wand.